Hi, Analisa Six here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the Gemini horoscope for the month of 2020, the month of 2024, the month of November in 2024 for Sun and Rising placements. It's already the middle of the month. I got to these super late. If you want a bigger breakdown on the whole month of November in a general sense, you can watch the astrology forecast video that I do at the top of the playlist. I'm going to try to keep this brief because, it's just easier to do that when I'm trying to get through all of these videos tonight and just kind of give you the bullet points for Gemini in November. November is a pretty active month. We start out November with a new moon in Scorpio. And I should preface this by saying every November we start out in Scorpio season and then we end up in Sagittarius season by the end of the month. And so we don't always have a new moon on the first of the month. So it's kind of special starting out November with a new moon, as new moons are an opportunity for us to set intentions towards things that we want to cultivate or manifest into our lives. And Scorpio energy is all about surrender, releasing, letting go, transformation, death and rebirth, sexual energy, power dynamics, all of that kind of stuff. And the area of the chart that Scorpio hits for the Gemini horoscope is the sixth house. And this is the house that Virgo traditionally rules. It's tied to servitude, hour of service in our communities, and not necessarily communities like 11th house themes, but more so in the work that we're doing. It can also have like a more kind of like service oriented nature when it comes to healthcare. This house specifically, it's also tied to our own personal health. And then it's also tied to organization and daily routines and our relationship to pets and animals. So, having a new moon here starting out the month, setting intentions towards the way that you want to cultivate any of those things in your life or even transmute energy around any of those things in your life is encouraged, especially when it comes to your own personal health and your daily routine. So if you've been feeling like your routine or your structure in your life isn't as organized or as together as you would like it to be, Scorpio season and this new moon could be a good time for you to kind of get that in order for yourself. Mercury is also in Scorpio in the later degrees starting out the month. And so that enhances the ability to kind of see things in a more analytical way passing through the sixth house, even though Scorpio is not necessarily the sign of, being analytical. Mercury in Scorpio is more investigative and more psychic leaning. But in the sixth house, we might have an opportunity to intuitively channel how we need to be more organized around our daily routine, our health, things like that. The other thing that we have starting out the month is Venus in Sagittarius, and Venus has been here already since last month. And Sagittarius is the opposite energy of Gemini. So it's, in the polarity of you. And so you guys are on a similar frequency, but you do things in opposite ways. And Venus in Sagittarius has been passing through your seventh house, which is the house of partnership and relationships. This can be partnership dynamics that are romantic, but it can also be business partnerships as well as any kind of best friend or close relationship that you have. And so, Venus in Sagittarius here might be open to exploring different, relationship dynamics, or maybe you're feeling more adventurous in a relationship. You could also, if you're dating and you're single, feel more inclined to want that connection with people. It's also, Sagittarius is the sign that rules our values and belief systems and kind of like what we care about when it comes to relationship dynamics. And so that could be something that's also been evolving and changing for you over the last few weeks. And starting out the month of November, you're going through more of that, especially when it makes an opposition to Jupiter on the 3rd of November, and, kind of asks you, like, how do you want to grow and evolve in yourself, especially regarding partnership dynamics. So that's a theme starting out November. We also have Mars finishing up its stint in Cancer for the month of November. Mars is going to move back into Cancer, but not until January when Mars is retrograde, but we're going to have Mars in Cancer for the first 3 days of November. And Mars has been passing through this area of the chart for you for the last couple of months. I believe it entered Cancer in, let's see, September. Yeah, September. So since September, we've had Mars in Cancer, and that's been passing through your area of finances. When Mars is in the second house, we do experience a lot of action around money, not necessarily positive. Like we could end up having certain situations that require us to spend more money than what we were hoping. But on the flip side, we could also be generating money and bringing money in that we weren't always expecting either. It's a good time to kind of hustle, but it's also a little bit like there's conflict around it. So, or obstacles. So I think that's something too to kind of be aware that you've had that going on. And then on the third, Mars is going to be moving out of that area and entering your third house, which is the house of communication. And it's going to be in the sign of Leo. And Mars is going to be starting kind of a big chapter here for everybody. I mean, for Gemini, it's particular to you in these houses, the second and third house kind of cusp. It's going to be going back and forth with. But, you know, we're all going under this Mars Leo Cancer influence. And so, you know, pretty much the next 7 months, 8 months, we're going to be in this story with Mars. So Mars is going to enter Leo and it's going to be there for the rest of November. So all you really need to think about or worry about is the fact that you're going to have the planet of action and conflict in your third house, which is the house that Gemini traditionally rules. So this is a big deal for you. This is a house of communication, analytical thinking, simplified learning, also short distance travel. And when Mars is here, we do experience conflict and tension, and we are forced to have to really grow and evolve in how we communicate. Leo is the sign that rules self-expression and creative expression, and it can be really positive to have Mars here amplifying our desire to share ourselves. But it can also be, you know, challenging in the sense that we're more prone to competitive urges, a need for validation. We might be more impatient. Leo has kind of this Veruca Salt, I want it now type disposition when it's in its youthful, immature shadow state. And so Mars here could be bringing up some of those issues, especially around communication dynamics. So Gemini is definitely going to be challenged a lot in the next few months. Mars will station retrograde in Leo in December. So this November month is really setting the stage. So whatever conflict you're having, especially one of the other things too is like when we enter Sagittarius season and Mercury enters Sagittarius, which happens around the same. So Mercury enters Sagittarius right before Mars enters Leo. And there's going to be this trine between Mercury and Mars, and it's going to hit your relationship house, your partnership house, which is opposing your autonomy and sense of self. And then it's going to be making this trine down to Mars in your third. Now, trines aren't bad, but they're not necessarily good. They're easy. They're fast moving energy. So you could get all this amplification and drive when it comes to relationship dynamics and how you're relating and communicating. But it's kind of, you know, it's fiery, it's passionate, it's spicy. You can burn out just as quickly as you ignited. You can come in hot. It can rub people the wrong way. There's going to be a lot of interesting lessons for you in November through how that's hitting in your chart. Jupiter is still retrograde in Gemini for the entire month. We also have Saturn in Pisces retrograde until the 15th. Uranus is still retrograde in Taurus, Neptune is still retrograde in Pisces, and then Pluto enters Aquarius on the 20th. So let's kind of go backtrack a little bit and go back to earlier in the month where the first other kind of shift of energy besides Mercury entering Sagittarius and Mars entering Leo is that we're going to have Venus on the 12th entering Capricorn, and this is going to enter the 8th house for the Gemini chart, which is the house of shared resources. So if you are dating anybody, married to anybody, and you cohabitate with them, or this could be anybody you cohabitate with, like a family, and then you also, there's also like your shared assets, resources, like if you own a house, if you have any ties to financial institutions, this is also the house of sex, death, and rebirth. All these themes come up for you during the month of November. So Venus, is that planet of relationships. It moves into Capricorn in the 8th house. We need to start getting kind of serious about some of these themes. It's also a blessing. We get blessed around shared assets and resources during that as well. On the 15th, we've got a full moon in Taurus. It's at 24 degrees Taurus, and this is hitting in your 12th house and 6th house placement. So the sun is still in Scorpio in the 6th house, and then that full moon's going to be in the 12th house. And the 12th house is the house that rules our connection to the subconscious. It rules secrets and hidden desires. It's also the area of the chart that we feel like we connect to source energy. It can also be repressed trauma memories and past life karma, our need for escapism or connecting to source energy. And full moons are a really powerful time for manifestation as well as releasing and letting things go. And in the 12th house, you've got a lot of ability to really go deep into yourself and figure out kind of what it is that's hidden that needs to be brought up to the surface and how you can work through that in an active way, especially when it comes to how you structure your spiritual life with your mundane life. That's very 6th house, 12th house. You've got these mundane responsibilities, and mundane means, like waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, how you eat, how you feed yourself, how you clean your space, how you take care of things. But then there's your spiritual hygiene, which is 12th house. And spiritual hygiene can be anything from meditation to, journaling, self-reflection, dream work. It could be even like art and music, I think, is part of spiritual hygiene, writing, those kinds of things, like however you're dealing with your emotional world, all of that kind of stuff, stuff that's more personal and self-focused. And both of these houses have an element of service and servitude focus. So if you also feel like you want to be more involved in being of service or around your community, that's also something that might come up for you during this full moon energy. And this full moon's also really poignant in that Uranus is going to be conjunct the moon, and Uranus brings about sudden change. And it's change that we can't really control, but it's supposed to be for the betterment of the self. So we might have some breakthroughs or some insights to stuff, and stuff that's tied to the past, even that's, karmically aligned, that our soul is supposed to be working through when we have it passing through the 12th house. Saturn's going to be stationing direct. We've had Saturn retrograde since the end of June, and it's going to be stationing direct at 12 degrees Pisces. So, the area of the chart that this has been hitting for Gemini is the 10th house. So if you've been feeling like your career stuff is really not gaining momentum, whatever kind of bubble you've been in with that Saturn retrograde should be releasing somewhat around the 15th. However, we do enter the Mercury retrograde shadow on the 21st, as well as entering Sagittarius season on the 21st. And so there's kind of this interesting like release in your career area where maybe things start to move forward, but then we still are kind of entering this other energy. But that the retrograde energy is hitting in your 7th house. So it's very different than the 10th house energy. The 7th house, again, is that partnership relationship energy. So the sun's going to move there. It's going to highlight relationship dynamics for you. And then Mercury is going to station retrograde here later on in the month around the 25th. But, we enter that shadow period on the 21st. And you are going to be kind of having to navigate a lot of challenges when it comes to relationship dynamics, especially having, a lot of challenges in relationship dynamics around how you communicate because of that polarity happening between 1st and 7th house with the retrograde, but then also Mars passing through your 3rd house is going to bring up conflict and challenges in communication. Whatever weird communication stuff you've been working through or up against, you are going to be really, really having to upgrade and kind of figure out how to communicate more effectively. And it's interesting because Gemini, is ruled by Mercury and is the sign of communication. But I would say most of the Geminis that I know, communication is a really big point of growth and needing to get more comfortable with confrontation, having difficult conversations. Gemini being mutable air tends to be really scattered, expansive, anxious. And so honing things in and getting more linear and more straightforward and more responsive or boom, boom, boom about things and like less kind of wishy-washy or flaky is something that Gemini has to work a lot on. And fire signs are a lot more action, upfront, confrontational. Like I would say air signs are a lot more passive and fire signs are a lot more confrontational. And these energies are happening in fire signs. So it's very like, time to really work on maybe more direct confrontational communication, but you have to figure out how to do it in a positive way, a healthy way, because there's the right way to do it and there's the wrong way to do it. There's a negative way to do it. So those are big themes for you in November. So then the last little thing that we'll talk about is on the 30th, we are going to have a new moon at 9 degrees of Sagittarius, and that's happening in your relationship house as well. Really good opportunity for you to set intentions around what you want to bring in relationship wise. So if you do have, a current partnership that you're already in and you want to manifest a certain frequency of energy within that partnership, you can set intentions towards that. If you're single or you're dating and you want to set intentions and tell the universe kind of more of what you want to call in with those types of relationships, this is a positive time. And if romantic partnership or sexual relationships or anything like that is totally not something you're interested in, this we all have different types of relationships, right? Like partnerships with people we work with or best friends. And so you can also set intentions around those types of relationships. If you feel like there's, different types of relationships you want to call in with people or something you want to work on with somebody currently, this is a really positive time at the end of the month to tell the universe kind of what you want in your life in that way. All right, Gemini, good luck. It's going to be a little bit bumpy, but I think that, you've got a lot of opportunity for growth. And that's good because the more we grow, the more we start to call in the things that we want to be more in alignment with. And that's what we came to this planet to do, I believe. So I'm sending you all the best of luck and I will see you guys in December. If you liked this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and you can find me at theladyofleisure.com and thesobercurator.com. I will see you guys all next month.